webinar. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this NESMA webinar about Agile Team Performance Measurement. I will host this webinar on behalf of NESMA. NESMA, I will introduce NESMA in a minute. So it's a software measurement standards and improvement organization where we are already around for a long time, founded in 1989 and focused on measurement, metrics, and application development, maintenance and support, all kinds of software related areas. And we try to be a connecting organization, connecting the knowledge, the experts, the consultants, the expertise, all kinds of organizations where software metrics are important. And we have the NESMA standard for functional size measurement, which is used basically all over the world to measure functional size function points. Who am I? I'm Harold. I'm now the chairman of NESMA since the 1st of January. I have a long history in IT, especially in software measurement and metrics. I worked a long time for Society at the metrics desk, where we did a lot of estimations, performance measurements, benchmarks, etc. Also now in IDC Metri, a management consultancy firm based in the Netherlands, but since IDC bought Metri a couple of years ago, now we are also globally active. And I am in ISBSG, the International Software Benchmarking Standards Group, the past president, and also in the newly founded ICO Software Special Interest Group, I'm a board member. And yeah, from a private note, I'm only 50 years young yet, so I'd like to call it young. Living in Veendam in the Netherlands, married, three kids, and a lot of hobbies, including skiing, which I'm going to do tomorrow, I hope, in France. Okay, I covered this one. So topics for today. We're going to look at Agile Team Performance Measurement. And we're going to take a look at a couple of Agile DevOps metrics that are used by a lot of teams. Those will be very familiar probably. But then we also zoom out a bit from the team level to the more corporate level, the look at the challenges that CIOs have, especially when it comes to Agile teams, and how you can measure business value and how we at NESMA promote that. High performance, low performance teams, we're going to look at how you can identify those and what are the advantages of identifying those. And this webinar is being recorded and uploaded to the NESMA YouTube channel. So if you have to drop out at some moment for whatever reason, you can always replay it over there. All right, so key benefits of Agile. Of course, Agile is around already a long time. So many of you who are here in the webinar know about Agile. I'm not going to explain the basics. But here are a couple of key benefits. So it should result in increased speed and responsiveness. Of course, if you have shorter iterations, then you can deliver more value sooner to your customer or to the user. There should be better quality because you have continuous feedback loops and testing practices, so you should have better products, better team morale, better engagement, greater customer satisfaction, reduced risk and waste. So a lot of these things, they sound very good, they sound great actually. A lot of Agile promises are very good on paper. But we also see in the practice in the industry that it's not often the case that these benefits these goals, these benefits are being delivered, and a lot of people or a lot of teams underperform. A lot of team members maybe not so happy. A lot of customers maybe also not so happy. So there are good performing teams and bad performing teams in the industry. And it's not always their fault that they're performing badly or they're performing very good. So we take a look at that a bit later. So from my job in IDC Metri, I do a lot of Agile team performance measurements, and I'll often get the question, okay, why would you even do that? We are working Agile. We try to do the best we can with the people that we have. We have prioritization in place. We make sure that if there's an incident, we can correct it quickly, etc. But still, there's a lot of benefits to Agile team performance measurement. So to be able to understand which teams are performing well, which teams are have an improvement potential. For instance, yeah, you can uncover hidden insights. Why are some teams better performing than others? Drive continuous improvement, skill development, team effectiveness. Make data-driven decisions, which is also very important. It becomes even more important when the AI is really kicking into the teams, and you can get a lot of benefits from that. Benchmark against industry standards. Just understand how you're doing. What we're talking about, application development, is an important function in many companies because this actually delivers the value to your customers and your users. So companies depend on application development and on value delivery by the teams. So you want to know how you're performing against your industry peers, for instance, to make sure that you're in line. Understand your bottlenecks is, of course, very important in Agile teams. Bottlenecks are not always obvious. And once you understand that you're performing, well, it can be improved, you will start looking for the bottlenecks in your process as well. Okay, so it's important, of course, that we are advocating these metrics not to punish teams, but to promote the improvement in the industry as a total. And it's often there's a lot of resistance against measuring teams, especially from the teams themselves. Because we measure because we want to make decisions. We want to get insight, we want to make decisions, and decisions usually or may be changed. And change is always considered not good, often considered not good. But yeah, every team wants to perform well, wants to be good, wants to be able to demonstrate that they're good. And good team performance should result in happy teams and happy people, and also happy customers, happy users. So that would be the ideal world. So team performance metrics should be value-driven, actionable, collaborative, lightweight, and sustainable. These are the kind of characteristics you would want to have in the metrics that you're using to measure the team performance. All right, so let's dive into a couple of Agile metrics that are used in teams a lot. So we have here the flow metrics that show your cycle time, lead time, etc. So this really shows how many work items are you working on in a sprint. How fast can I get a work item from an idea into production? These are very good flow metrics that you can also use to understand if your team is maybe under delivering or over delivering, etc. Then we have process quality metrics. So this says something about the way that you're developing. So your defect escape rate is a metric that measures how many defects escape into production. So they are not caught in the test process or the QA process. Rework rates, yeah, if they go up, then it means that your overall productivity will go down. And there are a couple of others as well. Then you have the delivery metrics. So the release frequency, on-time delivery, velocity. These are related to how fast can we deliver the value to the users. Then team collaboration, communication metrics, code review time, team meeting effectiveness. These are all kinds of metrics that you can measure, yeah, you can get a lot of valuable information from it, but of course these are not very objective. But yeah, you can do that. And then the product quality metrics. Security, maintainability, performance, efficiency, reliability. So this says something about the product, the code that you're developing. Because of course, if you're very productive or all your metrics are fine, but the quality of your product is not good, you will get defects, you will get incidents, and your customers won't be happy at all. And then the functional size metric. So this is where NESMA also comes in. When it comes to the functional size. So you have the project delivery rate, which is usually the hours per functional size unit, cost efficiency, the euro spent per functional size unit, delivery speed, number of functional size units per month or per sprint, and sprint quality, number of defects per 1,000 functional size units. I call them functional size units. There are function points, but could use also other measures for functional size than NESMA function points. There are a couple of standards out there. As you see on the right, you see a picture of the flow framework about the first metrics that are here. So these are all metrics that you can use, and especially I would say the first 5 are often used by teams. And the functional size metrics that we're going to explore a bit later, we use it to create an overview, because these are metrics that are objective and they look at the output of the teams produced. The output of product, I mean. So let's take a look at some of the other team metrics. So the DORA metrics are very well known. A lot of teams measure DORA metrics. So these are by the DevOps Research and Assessment DORA team. They are already around for a long time. So deployment frequency is one. So how many times can you deploy to the production environment? How fast can you do that? Lead time for changes. So how fast can you get an idea from starting into the production? Change failure rate. It says something about how fast how many times does a new change fail into production. So you have to roll it back, or you have to produce a hotfix. And the time to restore service. So that's how fast can I get the system working again once it breaks down. And there are a lot of these benchmarks out there, and they show that elite performers are much better than other teams. So there's a lot of difference here in performance in the industry when it comes also to these metrics. Here you can see another example. So this is from the report that is listed there below the source. So it shows that the elite teams, the cycle time is shorter than 19 hours, etc. So this is all very good if you are a lead team, of course, but how much business value do you deliver? Business value in the end is what is important for organizations, like I mentioned before. So this is the value creation that is going to support you as an organization to be successful. You can ask yourself, okay, if I'm a lead in cycle time, okay, you can produce changes faster, but it says nothing about the size of the changes, right? If they're small, if they're big, and how much value is in there. Deployment frequency, well, yeah, okay, if you can deploy every day, that's nice, but is that really beneficial for your product? Maybe you have a back office product that doesn't change a lot over time. Why would you need to deploy so fast? So all these type of metrics, they are important for the team, and they're interesting to know, but they don't say anything about the real business value that you deliver. Then we look at the CIO challenge here. This is a research questions from our RDC Future Enterprise Resiliency and Spending survey, wave 1 of last year, 2 years ago, where we questioned about 800 CIOs about their challenges in their application development. And you see here the results. So you see here the percentage of respondents of those 800, 798. And you see that measuring team productivity is the second one. Measuring cost efficiency is the third one. Quality, fourth one. So there are concerns on CIO level that they can't measure, or they can't compare, or they can't understand the performance of the teams. They spend money on the teams. It's like 60-70% even of the total IT spend goes to the application development, but they don't have the metrics and the measurements in place to understand how this money is spent and if it's well spent, or to say how much value is produced by the teams, and is this in line with what you can expect from the money spent. So these are the type of the things that CIOs are struggling. And if you look at it a bit more closely, you see here on the bottom, you see all the guys, developers working on a lot of features. And in the end, you see the money on the right. So it should result in somehow, all this work should result in some business value for the business. There comes the difficult part, because the business value is a very difficult to define concept, and therefore also very difficult to measure. So what is business value? It's a buzzword. It's multi-phase concept. Incorporates all kinds of stuff. So financial performance could be, yeah. Customer value, yeah. Operational efficiency, probably. Innovation, competitive advantage, yes. Brand reputation, market share, okay, then it becomes more tangible, right? So if you can measure, if I deploy this feature, I think I will gain 10% more market share in that type of business, then you can measure it. Employee satisfaction and engagement also can be important, but all of these aspects somehow integrate into value, business value. And how do you measure it? Well, I've tried to come up with frameworks, etc. It's very hard to do, and I stopped trying. And in the end, of course, you want to provide the business value, but business looks at metrics in a completely different way than IT, for instance, does, or guys in the team do. So you see here a DevOps metrics pyramid. I forgot to put the source there. I thought it was Gardner. And you see here that on the top of the pyramid, you have the typical business KPIs. And the further you go down, it's more goes more to the operational part. But somewhere, these metrics that are all in the pyramid, they should add up somewhere to the business value perception. So there must be some way that if you measure all these type of KPIs, that you have some understanding about the business value in the end produced. Well, the way we look at it, and I started this presentation with also a short explanation of NESMA, we look at functionality. We think that functionality is a good proxy for business value if it meets certain conditions. So it should be well prioritized. If you develop functionality that doesn't serve a goal, okay, then you produce functionality, but it's not considered business value. So it should be functionality that is meeting a demand. So it should be useful for the customers or the users, and increase customer satisfaction or brand recognition, or all the things that we just listed. So then functionality, if it's a proxy for business value, and I understand it doesn't measure all the aspects of business value, but if it is a proxy for business value, then more functionality delivered means more business value delivered. And then you can use an ISO standard like the NESMA standard to objectively measure the business value, the functionality being a proxy for business value, delivered by the Agile teams in an objective way, because it's a standardized method. And then we can try to understand which are my high performing and which are my low performing teams. So the benefits of identifying the high performing teams is, for instance, that you can try to learn to understand why these are high performing teams. You can improve your resource allocation, you can look at your retention motivation. There's a lot of things that you can learn from the high performing teams. But also, identifying the low performing teams is also a good practice. Not to punish them, of course, again, just to understand why there are issues in the team and try to improve it in an early intervention, targeted support, improve team dynamics. find the bottlenecks and try to improve those to make sure that everyone in the team will benefit from in the end the better performance in the end. But how can you identify these high and low performing teams? Okay, so there we come in again, output delivered. Unfortunately, as many of you know, well, not unfortunately, the industry works with story points. Many guys in the teams, they use story points, and this is subjective and relative effort estimation method. And there's nothing wrong with doing story points on a team level to understand how many backlog items can be put into the next sprint or the next sprint. And you often see a sprint burn down chart here based on story points to understand how fast are we delivering story points, etc. Okay, so this is what's happening in a lot of teams, and this is what I also encounter a lot as a consultant talking to senior management. They say, yeah, okay, our teams are doing story points, but I can't compare the teams to each other because these metrics, these story points are different for every team, and they also use this, like you see here, this Fibonacci scale. So a 5 is not necessarily almost twice as big as a 3. You can't really, there's no ratio scale there. It's just a relative ordinal scale. So you can also not really rely on metrics because of that same reason. And there's nothing wrong with doing story points. I encourage every team to do that because it's a good way to understand what you can put in your next sprint or the next one after that. But you can't use it for management information. And that's why we zoom out again. If we look at this graph, this I often use to explain the difference between story points and functional size. So here you see on the y-axis, you see a sprint capacity. Let's say this is one team working on one product, and they have a certain amount of hours they spend. Let's say at 1,000 hours here. So a sprint 1, they can really focus on new functionality, and you have always some tasks. And already in sprint 2, you will have the product owner say, okay, I want to change a bit of the functionality you already made. So you have modified functionality. And because the team, they had to create, to do some shortcuts in the code before to be able to deliver in time. So you have to do some code refactoring to make sure that the code is okay. And then sprints later, also you will remove some functionality already made because it doesn't fit the need anymore. You will get some bugs that needs to be fixed, etc. So if you look at this, you see that through time, less and less capacity is spent on new functionality, modified functionality especially. And more time is spent on tasks that have to be done, but it would have been better to prevent them. So code refactoring, okay, if your code is, if you have technical debt, your code is not good, you have to refactor it. Bugs, if there are bugs, yeah, you have to fix them. But it would have been better to write the code in the right way the first time, and also to avoid to have to fix the bugs, because then you could have spent that effort on the new functionality, for instance. You can become more productive. So this is what we see a lot happening through time with Agile teams. But if you only use the story point metrics, and that you see here on the bottom, all these things, also the red blocks, they will get story points because they're backlog items. These are things that have to be done. And as said, story points are a measure for effort. So if these things cost effort, they will get story points. But if you want to know the value produced, these story points that go into those red blocks, which you have to do, but should have avoided in the first place, they don't really bring directly the visible value to the users and the customers. And that's why we measure the functionality using nested function points and looking at the size that is added, modified, and removed. So that is what we can consider the size of a sprint project. And if you look at the story points, this team may be very predictable. They always have 80 story points realized. So management may think, okay, this is great, 80 story points realized. But in practice, you will see, okay, with less and less functionality is actually produced by the team. So this would maybe be considered a low-performing team in the end. So that being said, okay, we NESMA, we provide a standard which is objective, repeatable, comparable, etc. So this is our NESMA functional size counting guidelines. It's the latest version was in 2018, and it covers a lot of guidelines, but actually way too many to be interesting for agile teams. So we're now currently working on how do you say it, condensed standard that probably will be released in Q2 of this year, this standard will be will have less guidelines and easier to learn and easier to apply to, for instance, for agile teams. So that hopefully makes it more interesting also for the teams to use the standardized units, because it has, of course, also a lot of extra additional advantages over story points. You can compare, you can benchmark, you can estimate better, become predictable in the value production, etc. So we look at the functionality added, modified, and deleted. And that's for the EFP, the enhanced function points. This is also enhancement function points is also part of the standard. So this is in the counting guidelines that you can use this as a project size. And then we look at the productivity or the metrics that are introduced in the beginning based on functional size. The PDRs, the hours per EFP, you can measure them for a team over time, etc. The cost per EFP, the speed per EFP per month, defects per 1,000 EFPs. And then, okay, you have some trend. This is interesting. So your PDR is going down, which is good because the lower PDR, fewer hours are spent to deliver an EFP. So that's good. Costs also going down, etc. So you see here a good trend in performance. But still, you don't know how well are you performing, or are you here a high performing or a low performing? Because, for instance, for Java team, maybe 10 hours is the market average. So this team is still way less productive than the market average if it's a Java team. If it's a COBOL team, COBOL is maybe 25 hours per function point is the market average. So it would be very good performance. So that's why it's better to compare first to the industry. And as these are function points, you can do that. So you can select, for instance, here the ISBC dataset. There's a lot of data in there. It's over 11,000 data points now of projects, releases, and sprints. And there are 253 columns with attributes of these projects, releases, and sprints. And you can see here also the count approach is there, the primary programming language is there, the project year, functional size, productivity, etc. There's all kinds of data in there that you can use. So you can, for instance, if you are looking at a Java team, you can select a similar Java environment here, a data set that meets certain characteristics, and that is then your peer. So you know your peer productivity in the market. And if you know that, you can calculate the performance of your team against that peer. For instance, if your PDR is 4% better than your peer, then your productivity index will be 4%. If your cost is 4% higher than your peer, your cost index is 4% lower than market average. So here you can see that compared to the industry, compared to the data, you can actually understand how your team is performing and if it's good or bad. And then it becomes possible to understand if you do this for the whole, for all your teams. So here the dotted line in the middle it's the industry average, so it's 0%. It is maybe different for every team, right? So for a COBOL team, it's maybe 25, and for a Java team, it's maybe 10 hours per function point. But you see your performance of the teams against the industry averages and also the trend in those. So you see that you have a couple of teams that are performing much better than market average, and some teams that are performing much worse than average, and also the trends. So you can also see what happens, for instance, if you take this green one here on the bottom. If you implement some changes that you think will result in improvement, you can see if they actually also happen. Well, I think that was my main message for today. I have a couple of more slides in a minute, but I wanted to see at this moment if there are already some question and answers. And let me just try to find out how that works in this software. I don't see a question yet. Maybe this is because there are no questions. Maybe it is because I didn't put it in the settings. That should be a possibility. Anyone can write anything there that would be helpful for me to understand if it's possible to ask a question. Okay, I guess if no one. Here, yeah, I see Stefan. It's just test. Okay, so it is possible to put a question in the Q&A. If there are any questions, please write them down, and I will try to answer. If not, I will just move on in just a minute. I don't see any questions arrival. Anyway, if a question comes up, please write it there. I will just continue monitor this fenster. That will be good. Okay, let me then move on. So I've showed a number of metrics here in this webinar, and we don't go too deep into all of those, of course. You've seen there are nice metrics that can be measured by the teams, especially if you look at the DORA metrics or the flow metrics, even also the story point metrics, delivery metrics. These are all good, but because they don't say anything about business value, you can't really use them also to on a management level to understand if the business value is being produced. And that's why we advocate using the functional size metrics as an objective standard that you can measure the output of the teams and understand what's happening in the team. Are they spending their time on red blocks? Are they spending their time on delivering functionality? And how well is this done also compared to the industry averages? Then you can really understand your high performing and low performing teams, which have certain benefits. I get a question here. Okay, Thomas. Would you recommend measuring FUR and non-functional requirements separately for Agile teams? Yeah, personally, I have not seen a successful case where non-functional requirements were successfully measured, but I have not used the SNAP method, for instance, already in a long time. I know there are advocates in the industry that say, okay, you have to measure functional requirements and you have to measure non-functional requirements. But then you would also have to record your effort on that level, and I think that's much more difficult. So I have not really experienced lately to measure non-functional requirements, but yeah, I'm not saying I'm against it. It's just not something I'm doing myself. All right. So then we're coming to the end of the webinar. Thank you all again for joining. We are really trying to improve as a national organization, provide more value to the market. That's why we now have a new webinar lined up every month, like this one. We want also more members. We want the people to value the membership. We have, for instance, for all members, we have a physical event in the Netherlands, network events with a small conference attached. It's on the 6th of June this year. And we want to also connect organizations like the ISBSG, like the IFBUC, like the ICEA, with the cost estimation body of knowledge for software, all these type of things. We think that this is very valuable still for a lot of people in the industry, and we would like you guys also to anyone who is interested in becoming part of this community to become a member, so that we can improve the quality and etc. of this work. All right. Then thank you for attending the webinar. Please leave me a message if my mail address is here. If you like the webinar, it's nice to know. If you also didn't like the webinar, also good to know if there's any feedback you like me to address other topics or to improve other things. Just let me know, and it's good to know. Again, here, when you are getting the slides, click the registration form, become a member, and you will be very welcome. We just made the decision. We make all the digital products, we make it all free for members. So also the counting guidelines and all other stuff that we currently have on our website. And provide a lot of the data on or discounts on the ISBSG data. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. And well, it's almost weekend, so have a nice weekend. Bye.